Fortnite has over 30 seasons, and while most of them are really great, there are some that, well, let's say are less fun. So today I'm gonna rank them all from worst to best. With almost 2,500 hours in the game, I've played every single season starting from season 0 all the way to chapter 5, season 3. So I have a pretty good idea of everything the game has to offer. I'm gonna try and not let nostalgia get to me in this ranking. I'm basing my ranking mostly on how fun it was, but also the mechanics it introduced and the overall feel of the season. This is a personal list, and you can of course have a totally different opinion, but let me know in the comments down below what your favorite season is and why. And before we start, I have to make an honorable mention to chapter 5, season 3, as I'm recording this video a couple of days after the season came out, and I'm enjoying it quite a lot, but it's way too early to rank this season. They've also just made some nerfs to the cars, so that's a welcome addition as well. Coming in at number 30 at last place is chapter 2, season 6, and this is one of the only seasons I just straight up dislike so much to almost quit the game entirely, as the primal guns are all pretty bad, inaccurate, and overall just not great. And my main issue was just that the crafting system was kind of required, as the unupgraded weapons were just straight up terrible. And I get that it was the whole point of making it so that people upgrade their weapons, but you were better off just upgrading to the mechanic weapons instead of the primal weapons, as they were better by a long shot. One thing I have to say is that the bows are an exception to this though, as I think they were a great addition to the game and they were really fun to use actually. The map changes also weren't great, and a lot of people were already getting tired of the chapter 2 map, so it didn't really help with that. And the animal system was fine, but nothing too wild, as I just felt like it wasn't really useful to be riding on a boar, as you could just run and it would be almost equally as fast. I think a lot of people can agree on me with this one, because it wasn't really popular at all. After that, in 29th, we have chapter 2, season 1. This was supposed to be a new beginning, or so everyone thought, but while it delivered on some aspects, in a lot of ways this season still had a lot of issues, and this whole chapter really had a lot of ups and downs throughout it. This season also wanted to go back to more basic loot pool, but with the removal of almost all of the over-the-top weapons and items, this did lead to a very stale loot pool with almost no variety, and the fact that this season was almost 6 months long with barely any updates really got people disinterested in a new chapter, even with all the new additions like swimming, fishing, upgrade benches and boats. Overall, this was not a banging start to the second chapter as we all expected it to be, and it left a lot of people with a bad taste, even if it did add a lot of new things to the game. In 28th, we have chapter 2, season 8. This season was based all around the cube, as it saw the reintroduction of the cubes and the addition of the sideways zones and weapons that had a unique dynamic, as the longer you shot with them, the better their fire rate or damage became. The sideways itself was just a small sized area where the cube monsters could spawn, and the areas did change locations from game to game, but apart from that, this season didn't bring any significant map changes except the middle area where the cube queen started to make her palace, I guess. This also led to the end event of chapter 2, which was pretty cool as well. This season also saw the return of the mechs through a community voting event, and while they were definitely nerfed, they were still very strong. Overall, I think this season wasn't that bad, but I personally didn't like it. And the things they tried out this season didn't really get a positive response from the community. Also, this season really reminds me of season 6 and season X, and those are not the greatest seasons to feel like, because in number 27 we have season 6. This was another really disappointing season, as at the end of the previous season, the cube had just entered Loot Lake and people were really excited for the next big thing, but what we got instead was just a couple of purple spots with these shadow cubes around them and a floating island. I really like the shadow cubes that would turn you invisible and let you go around the map pretty quickly, but the main reason why this season is ranked so low is due to the big fuss around the Fortnite Mares event. It was the main selling point of the season and it was really underwhelming, as it would just spawn these annoying zombies around the map, and I do have to admit, some of it was pretty fun, but this season did end with a cool event with the cube exploding and adding Leaky Lake, so it had a good ending at least. In 26th, we have chapter 4, season 3. This was another primal / jungle season that is most well known for the vines, I guess. Yeah, this season didn't really add that much, and while that doesn't make this season bad, it just makes it super forgettable and boring. I don't have that much to say about this season, as I just didn't play it as much, and because it's just not that special in my opinion. But to be honest, this season mainly brought things back from the previous seasons and didn't really add that much significance, although I really did like the mammoth pistol. In 25th, we have season X. This season gets a lot of hate, and honestly, rightfully so, and that's of course because of the mechs. I do think this season had some good ideas with the rift zones, while most of them are not great, like the Wild West version of Tilted Towers, where you just couldn't build, or the Greasy Grove Taco Time. Those were some really bad ideas. But the Gotham Rift Zone with the Batman gliding mechanics, and Pandora, a crossover POI where you got quickly regenerating health, and a cool art style change were some good ideas, but most of them are really bad still, don't get me wrong. One thing they also did in this season, what most of you guys probably won't remember, is that they tried to sneakily nerf turbo building to the point where it was almost unusable, but they almost instantly reversed these changes with the amount of backlash they faced. I think this is one of the most controversial seasons of Fortnite ever. It did have a banging chapter ending event that had everyone talking for a couple of days, as people really did think they would shut down the game forever. Overall, they tried a lot of new things in this season, but most of it just didn't land with the community. In 24th, we have Chapter 3, Season 3. The main two things they added this season were the ability to ride wildlife and reality saplings. While the riding mechanics was a good addition, it just wasn't very useful, as you just had ballers and a lot of other movement mechanics in the game, and I think they should have just added this earlier in a season like the primal one, as it would actually fit there. The reality saplings on the other hand were a really cool addition, as they dropped increased rarity of items the more you wet it, and they even had a little twist on it, as when you got them all the way up to mythic, depending on where you planted it, you could get a different mythic weapon. One thing also worth mentioning is the Dragon Ball collab in this season, alongside the Nimbus Cloud and the Kamehameha, which were both super fun but extremely broken. The map also saw the addition of the giant reality tree and overgrown Greasy Grove, but apart from that, not that much, so it was kind of disappointing as well. In my opinion, this season was just fine and didn't do that much right or wrong, it's just kind of forgettable. Moving on to number 23, we have Chapter 3, Season 4. Chrome Season. This definitely was one of the seasons of all time. It did add the Chrome mechanic that made you able to turn into a blob, go through walls, and heal up some HP and shields over a limited time. It also introduced the Evo Chrome weapons that upgraded in rarity the more you dealt damage, which in my opinion was a really cool way to reward players for using weapons in the beginning when they were bad, and gradually get a better weapon the more they used it. The map changes initially were pretty bad, but the longer the season went on and the more the Chrome spread, it got a little bit better, but it only made those POIs have Chrome in them as well, and didn't change anything else about them. I think especially for being the last season of this chapter, they should have just gone a little bit wilder with this one. In number 22 we have Season 0, and this one might be a little controversial, but I'm guessing that most of you haven't even played this season, and if you did, you will probably agree with this one, so hear me out. This season is really great in terms of purely fun and excitement, but this was just a super bare bones version of the game, with the map being super empty and overall item and loot pool being very limited. Shout out to the pump sniper though. This season is just a tryout if the game worked, and it for sure does. This means that not that much was there from the beginning, but we all gotta start somewhere, right? And this for sure was a really great start, don't get me wrong. It's almost 7 years ago, so it's pretty difficult to nail the things I was feeling this season, but I think if this season came out today, a lot of people would be bored very quickly, and I think this is a fair spot to put it. In 21st, we have Chapter 4, Season 2. This season fully revamped the bottom right side of the map, with the biggest change being Mega City, a Tilted Towers-like POI, although not nearly as good as Tilted. It was a welcome change along with the other map changes. This season also saw the revamp of the arena competitive mode into the new ranked system, and I don't exactly know how well received this mode is, but the original arena mode did need some updating, so I see this as a win. I think one of the most underrated new mechanics they added in this season has to be the loot island that spawns in the air in the middle of the match. This in my opinion is one of the most balanced things they have added in quite some time, as everyone knows when and where it spawns in, and it becomes a really high risk, high reward situation to capture the island and get some of the best loot in the game, along with a mythic item in some seasons. I think this was just a really solid season. It's just in the middle of the park, I guess. And in 20th, we have Chapter 2, Season 7, themed all around aliens. This season saw a lot of unique fun items like the recon scanner and the railgun, and yes, they were broken, but none of them are quite as bad as the saucers. They would just take over the entire match with how broken they were. It also gave us parasites. These gave players a jumping and speed boost, while also protecting headshot multipliers by consuming HP in return. It brought a cool risk-reward feature, but was never expanded upon. This season also lacks in map changes, as it basically just reverts everything the previous season changed and just put some purple stuff in the middle of the map, and was just quite disappointing. This season was not balanced at all, but it did make the game feel back to the fun, goofy nature with the weapons and items they introduced. So I quite like this one. In 19th, we have Season 1. Again, maybe a controversial one, but don't get me wrong, this is a good season. And while this season did really improve the game by adding to the loot pool and with the addition of the first Fortnite Mares event, but this season still has a lot of issues that the first season has, with the map not receiving any updates yet coming from Season 0. This is also the point where the game began to get some traction and started getting a lot more players. In 18th, we have Chapter 5, Season 2. At the time of recording, this is the most recent season that they fully finished, and it did have a really great start with the introduction of the Greek gods, the new wings, and the Zeus Bolt, but it just didn't keep me playing for a long time as they just didn't add that much this season during the mid-season updates. Like the biggest thing they added was a chain and the bending abilities from Avatar, and these were good, but it just didn't entertain me for that long as they missed some of the potential this season could have had. But I did really like the map changes they made and the addition of the skulls that would give you a booster. I thought those were really cool additions to the game. But this season had a great start, but after that it just fell a little flat. Still really fun though. In number 17 we have Chapter 2 Season 5. This season was based all around bounties and bounty hunters, and this season is not my favorites, but not to say that it's bad or anything, but I don't know, it just never felt the best to me, I guess. They added gold bars in this season, which is one of the best features in the new chapter, by the way. It also saw the newly added 0-point crystals, which gave you a dashing forward ability. It was just very fun overall. Also, the exotic weapons were something I never thought I wanted, but it's such a genius idea of just a weapon with a perk that no other weapon has, which is really great. And I did really like it that you couldn't just get it every single game, as it would just cost way too much gold to get it in a single game, which made it really fun to just have a weapon that no one else can have, and you only get it once every like 5 games or whatever, so you don't see it as much. The main thing I just didn't enjoy that much about this season was the sand mechanic. It was also kind of forgotten, as most of the map you couldn't even use it, and to be honest it wasn't that fun anyways, but it just felt like a waste of a mechanic. This season was really fun, don't get me wrong. In number 16 we have Season 7. This season was very controversial and for some pretty good reasons, with the planes that were just straight up broken and didn't have any counters, along with the Infinity Blade over on Polar Peak that completely took over the game when it came out and was just as strong or even stronger in my opinion than the planes. It gave you 200 HP and shields and had an insanely broken attack, but the most outrageous thing about this was that you could build with it and get materials as well, and the community did not respond well at all, and only 3 days later they already removed it from the game. But on the other side you had the launch of the creative mode that gave us an unlimited amount of content, but this did increase the skill gap quite drastically as a result, which a lot of people didn't really like. Another great thing they added was the block. This was a POI that the community could design different islands for and submit them to be in the game for around a week, and then it would switch over to another one. This was such a great concept, and it had some of the most unique and creative POIs ever, and I'm actually quite sad it never saw a return. The map also saw a lot of changes, with a snowy area in the bottom left corner that brought us Polar Peak, Frosty Flights, and one of my favorite POIs ever, Happy Hamlet. This season was a lot of fun. Now we are halfway through the list. Coming in at number 15 we have Chapter 4 Season 4. This season was another really fun one, but it didn't add anything groundbreaking or memorable. It gave me vibes of Chapter 2 Season 2, which is always a good sign, and that's mainly because of the new POIs they introduced with Eclipse Estate, Sanguine Suites, and Relentless Retreat. These made the map have a much needed new feel and actually made it feel more dense and occupied. It also introduced a rocket ram item, which is probably the best new item, but apart from that this season was just fun and not one of the greats, which is fine. I don't have much to say about this one, it just was good, you know? Coming in at number 14 we have Chapter 5 Season 1. This season added a lot more than just a new chapter. It launched Lego Fortnite, Rocket Racing, and the Fortnite Festival. I think these are really fun new game modes, but I'm gonna mainly focus on the Battle Royale aspect, so don't really expect me to go in detail about these ones. This season added weapon benches that made you able to modify your weapons with a couple of attachments that changed some of the aspects of your guns, like adding a scope or an extended magazine. This was a great new feature in my opinion, and along with the medallions that the bosses dropped when you eliminated them, that in this season gave you shields, and the more of them you had, the more and faster you regained shields. This did bring some risk to it though, as it was at the cost of revealing your location in a big area, and the more medallions you held, the smaller the area became, making it riskier to hold multiple medallions, but in my opinion it was always worth it. In the following seasons they did change the perks that the medallions gave you, but in this season all they did was the same thing. Another big change was the ability to walk while healing, and the changes to the healing itself as you heal over time and not just at the end of the full animation. This season also added the train, but it's not really a useful feature, as most of the times just using a car or mobility item is faster. I think this season is great and it is a really good starting point for the new chapter. Coming in at number 13 is Season 9, the futuristic season of Chapter 1. This season made some quite bold changes, such as fully removing the pump for the first time ever and replacing it with the combat shotgun, which many people didn't like in the beginning, but it grew on people quite quickly as it was really overpowered. Another really bold thing they did was changing Tilted Towers into a more futuristic Neo-Tilted, along with changing Retail Row into Mega Mall. And to be honest, these were really good changes. The new slipstream mechanic made it very easy to go around the map, and because it looped around the new POIs, that made going to them even more fun. It also saw the addition of hotspots with loot drones that when shot down gave you some great loot, but they always made it very worth going to them, so it was a great feature. One thing I personally really liked about this season was a Fortnite introduction, that when you collected them all revealed an image that was essential to the storyline, and we haven't seen it return ever since, which I'm kind of sad about. The live event is one of my favorites, and it was really hyped to experience. I think this was a really bold but fun season, and while it did have some new features, it wasn't groundbreaking. Coming at number 12 is Chapter 4 Season 1. The first season of Chapter 4 is also the best season on this map, as it added a lot of new things like the reality augments that I personally really enjoyed, as it brought some new mechanics with them, but they got removed in the following chapter due to probably the way that some of them were really overpowered and it was just hard to balance them, as you had to get lucky to get the right ones. They also added capture point that you could take to get some loot and the ability to see nearby chests and opponents. I really liked this as well. This season also added the slap mechanic that gave you infinite sprint and added a lot of new weapons and items too. One of my favorite movement items was the shockwave hammer that got added in this season, and they reworked the slurp juice to be actually a really good healing item that gave you a continuously healing effect for a brief amount of time. I think this is one of the best first seasons of a new chapter. Coming in at number 11 is Season 8. This was honestly one of my favorites for such a long time. They introduced Ballers, which was such a fantastic new vehicle, and it actually made it super fun to just swing around the map. It also saw the new cannons that were very busted in the beginning and would just send you into a completely different direction for some unknown reason. It also reworked top right corner of the map by adding Lazy Lagoon, Sunny Steps, and oh yeah, a volcano. But by far the most influential new feature this season was the reboot fan. And while it's a staple now, it was a very necessary change in the mid-season update. It made the game way more enjoyable and just less punishing overall. This was also the season of the World Cup, which was super hype, and this has to be the peak of in-person Fortnite competitive. Season 8 also had some banging LTMs with the Avengers Endgame mode, The Floor is Lava, and best of all, Air Royale. 3 of the most beloved LTMs of all time. Overall, I really like this one, but it's not perfect. Now we're cracking the top 10, starting with Chapter 3 Season 1. This again was one of those that are really fun, but don't add the most new mechanics ever. But in this case, it's totally okay, as the most features they added this season are really great. Like for example, the victory crowns are awesome, and you can just flex on everyone with it. It's really fun. And they also added tents this season that would store items for you. And while this was such a good idea, you could really abuse this, because you could always store your best weapon and just get it off spawn instantly, and you would be at such a big advantage. The best movement item also got added this season, the Spider-Man gloves. If you never played with these, I feel bad for you, as swinging around with them around the map is just so much fun. But the biggest, most influential new thing got added this season: The Rock. Yeah, I'm joking. But it was just so funny seeing this guy as a boss you could kill. The new map was also really great for the first season, as it didn't feel empty at all like Chapter 2 or the Chapter 4 map in the first season. Also a big thing I almost forgot they added this season were weather effects like tornadoes and lightning storms that would randomly spawn on the map and add some new dynamics. I really enjoyed this season, as it brought the game back to a more basic experience while also making sure to not bore you at all. So it deserves to be in the top 10. Moving on to number 9, we have Season 2. And I think moving forward is just peak Fortnite. This season heard all the complaints that everyone had and said, bad, let's fix them all. Empty map, add 5 new POIs, with 3 of them being the most iconic ever, with snowy shores, shifted shafts, and oh yeah, tilted towers. The most iconic POI in the game, and possibly in whole of gaming. The community wanted a progression system. Well, here you go. Have a battle pass that you can grind and get some great skins. You guys wanted healing items? Here you have some small shields that quickly heal you, and a chug jug that can fully heal you no matter how hurt you are. You guys want movement? We added impulse grenades that launch you forward, but you can also throw your friends with. This season also had the first LTMs with sneaky silencers and high explosives, and will go down as one of the most influential seasons of all time. But since its introduction, there have been so many fantastic new seasons that just slightly edge it over this one. Like at number 8, Chapter 2 Season 3. This season had one of the most drastic map changes ever, with a lot of the map being flooded, and every week or so the water level would go down. But this meant that especially in the beginning of the season, a lot of the game was spent swimming, riding a boat, or surfing behind one of the newly added sharks. One of the most controversial changes this season was the introduction of the charged shotgun and the removal of the pump. The charged shotgun is a really unique weapon, but it did feel really clunky, as you had to charge it to deal the proper damage. Later in the season they also introduced scars, which they could have made into a full seasonal change, but they dropped it in this one for some reason. At first I put this season way lower, but the more I think about this one, the better it seems. And the addition of cars made this one go way higher. In number 7 we have Season 5. This is one of the all-time greats, but I do think people sometimes overhype this season just a little bit too much, as this was the spray season with the addition of so many overpowered submachine guns and a major nerf to shotguns, which they did to try and lower the skill gap, as a lot of people started to get really advanced at building at this point. And they thought this would make lesser skilled players happy, but it didn't really achieve that. that. This season also added the first real vehicle to the game with the golf cart, and I remember people going nuts over this thing. This was a great way to get across the map and sped up the pace of the games. Some of the map changes were Paradise Palms along with Lazy Lake and the desert area, which in my opinion are some of the best map changes of all time. Also later this season, Kevin the Cube spawned in, and we all love him till this day. And if it wasn't for the spray meta, this one would go way higher, but at this point the small things matter because almost all the seasons are pretty close to each other. Number 6 is Chapter 2 Season 4. This season didn't start with the biggest bang ever, as it didn't really add anything huge to the game and only having Dr. Doom in the first couple of weeks, but after they added Stark Industries, this season really took off with the gradual introduction of different Marvel character abilities that all felt really unique and fun to play. This season had an insane event with Galactus trying to eat the map and we all needing to stop him, which brought a Marvel movie feel to the live event that I really like. This season on the surface doesn't look like a groundbreaking season, but the abilities did bring a whole new mechanic to the game that we hadn't seen before, and most importantly, this season was insanely fun, so it deserves a spotting 6th. Before we move on to the top 5, I wanted to thank you all for the recent support, and if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe, as almost 99% of you guys are not subscribed yet. Also, if this video does well, I'm planning on doing an entire history video on Fortnite as well. So let's get to the top 5. In 5th, we have Chapter 4 Season 5, also known as the OG season. After almost 5 years, we finally went back to the Chapter 1 map, and I think I speak for everyone when I say this is one of the best things they ever did. Not only did we go back, but we also kept some of the best of the newly added mechanics from the seasons after Chapter 1, like the mantling, sprinting, and no build mode. This season also brought back the simplistic loot pool from around Season 5 and updating weekly to go through the seasons, and while they didn't fully add every single season, they did keep the fitting of most of them. This was by far the shortest season, being only 1 month long, and that was because it was meant to be a quick season while they were working on Chapter 5 and everything about UEFN, but this season fully revived the game for a lot of people, and even some of my friends who hadn't played the game in over 4 or 5 years hopped back on to experience this. But after this season was over, they did leave equally as quickly though. They did announce when they removed it that OG Fortnite would return in 2024, but we're halfway through the year and we haven't heard a thing, so yeah. Also, I'm not putting it any higher because they didn't introduce anything new, and if they did add anything new, it might have even gone higher. But in number 4, we have Chapter 3 Season 2. When we think about influential seasons, we usually think about Season 2, Season 3, or any of the Chapter 1 seasons, but this one is in my opinion a top 3 most influential seasons, as it introduced no build mode, a staple in the game now, but in this season they first introduced it as a week-long feature at first, but then they kept it for the whole season, and it fully revived the game for so many people that wouldn't even thought about playing the game ever again if it didn't exist. Along with the newly added movement mechanics that allowed people to more freely run around the map and added a lot of depth and removed a lot of frustrating moments. The map didn't have the most amount of changes, but it did have these flying blimps that would regularly change their positions to different POIs to keep it fresh. This season also had its little problem with the overpowered tanks that would just take over the whole season, but hey, what do you expect from Fortnite at this point? I don't think a lot of people have this season as high as I have, and admittedly it's not the best in terms of fun, but the innovations were so crazy that I think it deserves this spot. Now we enter the top 3, starting with Season 3. This is where Fortnite fully took off with popularity, and this season was just straight up perfection, as it added things like the loot llama, which is super iconic now, along with the hand cannon, hunting rifle, heavy shotgun, C4, porta fort, and vending machine. All of these were welcome additions to the loot pool that at this point was not perfect, but after they all got added, I think this was the closest we ever gotten to a perfect loot pool that also kept it simple. Halfway through the season, people also started to notice a star in the sky that kept on getting closer and gave us the first live mini event. This really brought the community together and started the Fortnite storyline. This season was just straight up peak and you can't change my mind about it. But in second we have, and this one's a tough one, I'm still debating on if I'm gonna put this one here, Season 4. While Season 4 didn't have the biggest amount of changes on paper, it didn't ever need that many changes anyways, because coming off of Season 3, all the groundwork was already laid down, and this season just expanded upon it and enhanced the experience. The most significant changes in this season were the hop rocks over at the crater at Dusty Divot and the smaller ones scattered across the map, which were the only map changes along with the football stadium later in the season. This season also added the jetpack, which many consider to be super overpowered, but that was mainly due to the fact that no one really knew how to build properly yet. But one of the biggest new things they added this season was the shopping cart, and looking back, it wasn't great, but everyone was just happy with the first ever vehicle in the game that could get you somewhere 5% faster than just walking. The area where this season mostly added was the LTMs, with the Infinity Gauntlet game mode, which was just fantastic and one of the best ones they've ever made, and the playground game mode that was really fun just to mess around with and go 1v1 your friends in Tilted Towers to see who was the best, or just make your own shopping cart course and try to complete it. Playground was such a fantastic game mode and was so fun to just mess mess around with. But because of Playground, it did see an increase in player skill because this was the first official way to actually practice your building skills. But again, this season is really great. I have nothing bad to say about this one, and it could have easily gone to number 1, but you guys over on my poll with 60% voted this next season to be at number 1. So at number 1 we have Chapter 2 Season 2. This season added way too much, and for some reason it all worked. This was the first time they added bosses to the game that dropped a mythic weapon and a keycard that you could open vaults with for some insane loot. This season also added the shakedown feature when you knock down an enemy to reveal where their teammates were at. Some other additions are the phone booths that disguise you as a henchman to blend in with them and prevent them from shooting you as long as you didn't shoot your guns either. The new secret passages that would transport you to another location, and the addition of some of the best POIs ever, the grotto, the agency, and the shark being standout. This season paved the way for a lot of changes and features in the following seasons and was the most influential one of Chapter 2 by far.